Today, we're going to explore a pretty powerful idea, one that might just change how you see everything happening in the world. It's called the four seasons of history. You ever just look around and think, why does everything feel so chaotic right now? You know, it's like we're just bouncing from one crisis to the next. There's this constant sense of urgency, of division, and frankly, it can be pretty overwhelming. It's a feeling a lot of us share. But what if all this chaos isn't random at all? What if it's actually a predictable phase in a much bigger cycle, something that's happened before and will probably happen again? Think about it like a cycle. The simplest one we all know is the year, right? Spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each one has its own distinct mood, its own purpose. Well, this theory suggests that history works in a very similar way. And look, this isn't some brand new idea. For a long time now, people who study this stuff have noticed a kind of rhythm to the world. They've seen these patterns of peace, which are then followed by conflict, and then by rebuilding, over and over again. So this cycle has four distinct parts, or seasons. There's a time of growth, then a time of upheaval, followed by a time of unraveling, and finally a time of crisis. Let's break down what each of those actually feels like. Okay, so we start with the first season, a time of growth. This is basically history's spring. So after a really difficult period, society starts to rebuild. And there's this powerful feeling of unity and shared purpose. People actually trust their institutions, like the government and community groups, and the focus is on building a better future together. It's a really optimistic time. And the kids who grow up during this spring are totally shaped by it. They're raised in a pretty secure world, protected from harsh realities, and they grow up to become these passionate idealists, ready to challenge the world to be even better. And it's those passionate idealists who bring us to the second season, a time of upheaval. This is history's summer. So those kids from the spring are now young adults, and they start to question the world their parents built. This is an era of huge cultural rebellion. Old rules get challenged, people search for deeper meaning, and the freedom to just express your own individuality. That becomes incredibly important. And while all the adults are focused on this cultural stuff, the kids born during this summer are often kind of left to figure things out for themselves. They grow up seeing a messy, complicated world, and they become very pragmatic, resourceful survivors. That brings us right into the third season, a time of unraveling. You can think of this as history's autumn. That passion from the summer, it kind of fades away, and what's left behind is this mood of cynicism. Individualism is at its absolute peak. Trust in things like the government hits rock bottom. The culture just feels fragmented, like it's in a million different pieces, and it seems like nobody can agree on anything. But the children who are raised during this autumn, they see all the consequences of this division. They grow up in a world that feels broken and complex, and it shapes them into people who really value community and teamwork, the exact things that are going to be needed for what comes next. And what comes next is the fourth and final season, a time of crisis. History's winter. The slow decay of autumn eventually leads to a breaking point, a major crisis. This could be a war, an economic collapse, even a revolution. This threat is so huge that it forces a fragmented society to come together. Individual wants get put aside for the collective need to just survive. It's a dangerous time, for sure, but it's also when all those long-ignored problems finally get confronted head-on. During this winter, the old ways of doing things just aren't enough. The institutions that failed during the autumn get torn down. Everything changes. The old political and social order is completely swept away. And from the ashes of that crisis, a new world is born. The cycle ends, clearing the way for a brand new spring, a new time of growth. So, after hearing all that, there's one really obvious question, right? Where are we now in this cycle? If history really does move in these seasons, which one are we in right now? Is this spring, summer, autumn, or winter for us? Well, according to this theory, our current global mood, that feeling of constant crisis, the deep political division, the sense that really big things are at stake, it all points to one season. We are in the winter. I mean, just think about the difference. In the spring, institutions are strong, goals are shared, and people are optimistic. In the winter, institutions are weak, and society has to find new goals and make shared sacrifices just to survive. It's a moment of maximum danger, but also maximum opportunity. If this pattern holds true, then the goal isn't to try and stop winter from coming. You can't stop the seasons from turning. The real question is for us, how do we choose to face it? How do we get through this time of crisis together to build the next spring? That's what we have to decide.